After 4 months of silence, I began receiving calls from unfamiliar numbers. The urgency in her voice was unmistakable when I answered the phone. Betty was asking for forgiveness and attempting to explain herself. Hey, it's Betty. I never imagined my life turning out like this. College was supposed to be about independence, freedom, and discovering who I was, but I didn't expect Mitch. He wasn't loud or flashy, and he wasn't the life of the party. He was steady, focused, and before I knew it, I found myself drawn to him. Mitch was intelligent, much smarter than me, but I appreciated that he made me feel like I could do anything too. I was always one step behind him, working as a paralegal, and I didn't mind it at first. My job was secure, but it wasn't exciting. His life, on the other hand, was always moving. Big plans, big dreams. I loved watching him chase them. Like a fool, I thought I could keep up. When Mitch got that offshore job, it changed everything. 3 months away, 1 month at home. That's how it worked. He paid for the apartment, and I waited for his calls and texts. It wasn't perfect, but I convinced myself we made it work. When he came home after those 3 months, it felt like he hadn't left. We fell back into our rhythm. Dinner, late-night talks, making plans. It was easy, but the months he was gone were different. Quiet, empty. I'd fill the time with work, friends, anything to keep my mind from wandering too far. I kept telling myself I was okay, that I could handle it. But eventually, the distance between us started to feel like a void. I wasn't just waiting for him anymore. I was longing for something more, though I didn't quite know what. But I knew I wasn't content. Then the Saudi Arabia opportunity came up. A 7-figure salary. Mitch spoke about it as though it was a done deal. And being the practical one, I didn't argue. We had been discussing our future for months, and the more he talked about it, the more it seemed like the right choice. A few years in Saudi, saving money, securing our future. It made sense. I nodded in agreement, but deep inside I wasn't sure. 10 months away, 2 months at home. It didn't sit right with me, but I kept quiet. We agreed that marriage could wait. Financial stability came first. I would hold on, he'd work, and we'd figure everything else out later. But as the months wore on, I grew restless, lonely even. Mitch's returns were sweet, but they didn't fill the empty spaces. I told myself it was just part of the deal, that I needed to be strong, patient, and supportive. But when he was gone, I didn't feel strong or patient. I felt lost. That's when I met him. It wasn't planned, and I wasn't looking for someone else. But sometimes the universe has different plans. He was different from Mitch. He saw me for who I was, not as a side note in someone else's life. I didn't realize it at the time, but that difference was everything. It didn't take long before I was caught up in the thrill of someone who wasn't waiting for me to support his career. Someone who didn't expect me to fall into a predictable pattern. He was exciting. He didn't have Mitch's ambition, but he had something else. And that was enough for me. Hey, Mitch here, Saudi Arabia. The salary was incredible, 7 figures. That's what I'd be earning if I took the job, and honestly, it was tough to turn down. Betty and I had been talking about our future for months, but I knew she wasn't entirely on board with the idea. 10 months away, 2 months home. That's a lot of time apart. But I thought about the bigger picture. Financial security, a house, a future where we wouldn't have to worry about anything. I'd leave in a few weeks. But first, I wanted to surprise Betty. I'd planned it all. A cruise, 16 nights, just the two of us, no distractions. I'd been saving up for months just for this. I made all the arrangements without telling her. I picked up a bouquet of flowers on my way home. It was late, the night quiet, but my heart was racing. I couldn't wait to see her face when I told her I was ready to take the next step. I'd been thinking about it for months, and now I had the ring. I used my key to open the door, and the apartment was cool and dark. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Normally, Betty would have the TV on or music playing, but there was nothing. The silence hit me harder than it should have. Then I heard it. The muffled voices from the bedroom. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to know, but I did. I stood frozen, holding the flowers like they were made of stone. I pushed the door open, and the faint squeak of the hinges sounded deafening. And there they were, Betty in bed with him. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I wanted answers, but I couldn't move. My legs felt heavy, and the flowers slipped from my hand, falling to the floor with a soft thud. She saw me. Her eyes widened, and her face drained of color, but I didn't hear her. I couldn't hear her. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears, the pounding of my heart. She opened her mouth, but I couldn't make out the words. I couldn't bring myself to listen. I turned and walked out. I didn't think about it, didn't plan it. I just walked away. I didn't wait for her to stop me. Didn't wait for her to try to explain. I didn't need an explanation. I needed to leave. The cool night air hit me the moment I stepped outside. I kept walking, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing, but I couldn't stay there. Not after what I saw. The pain was so sharp, it felt like someone had cut through me. But I kept walking. I didn't care about the time or the place. I didn't care about anything. I ended up at a hotel, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and anger. I didn't know what to think, what to feel. Her calls started coming in that night. I ignored them. The phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not when I didn't even know what to say. The next day, the messages started. Texts, voicemails. They were all the same, confused, apologetic, pleading. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. I couldn't believe what I had seen. I couldn't believe what she had done to us. I didn't have answers. I didn't have any words to explain it. But somehow, I knew I would never see her the same way again. The calls kept coming, a new message every hour, but I didn't respond. I couldn't. That night, I lay awake in the sterile hotel room, staring at the ceiling. Everything was shattered. I had no idea where to go from here. My mind was a storm, filled with questions, doubts, and a searing, gnawing pain I couldn't escape. I couldn't get her face out of my head. The way she looked when she saw me standing there. It haunted me. Eventually, I picked up my phone and opened the messages. Each one was more desperate than the last. I couldn't take it. I hit delete on the first one, then the second. By the time I was done, I had erased them all. I couldn't listen to her anymore. I couldn't hear the excuses, the explanations. I just needed silence. The moment Mitch walked out, I knew. I knew what I had to do. Panic hit hard, but I pushed it away. I couldn't afford to lose control. I had already lost so much, and I couldn't let him take everything from me too. I called my best friend Amanda first. She had always been great at helping me think things through, and this was no exception. She listened quietly, her voice sympathetic, but sharp when she spoke. Don't let him destroy you. "He can't just walk out like that," she said. I sat there, the room spinning. Mitch had been everything. My future, my stability. And now, just like that, it was all slipping away. The plan came quickly. How to keep him from turning this around on me. How to make him look like the villain. The best part? It would be easy. So easy. I spent the night crafting the story, piecing together a tale that would make him look like a monster. A man who had crossed a line. I didn't have to lie too much. I just had to twist the truth. The next morning, I went straight to the police. I didn't give them all the details at first, just enough to get them to listen. The accusations came out like I had practiced them 100 times. He hurt me. He forced me. He wouldn't let me leave. The words felt foreign on my tongue, but I knew they would stick. I didn't have to do much. My friends rallied behind me. They had seen me with Mitch. They knew what he was capable of. Or at least, that's what I told them. It didn't matter that it was a stretch. What mattered was that they believed me. They were quick to turn on him, and I let them. They all called. They all texted, full of outrage. They didn't need details, just the headlines. My boyfriend, his name didn't matter. Not right now. It made things easier, gave me someone to lean on while everything fell apart. Of course, I couldn't let him know everything. I couldn't tell him how much I needed Mitch's money, how comfortable I had gotten with the life he'd built for me. I couldn't let him see the truth. And then, as if on cue, my boyfriend started pulling away. His attention shifted, and I began to feel that familiar panic again. I had to fix this. I had to keep him close. I didn't know what to expect next. I never imagined he would leave me, but he did. One night, he dropped a bombshell. He had been seeing someone else. That was when I realized just how badly I had messed everything up. I had a choice to make. Could I save what was left of my reputation? Could I keep lying to cover this up? Or was I about to lose everything? I held on to the hope of a new life, but it was slipping away, like sand in the wind. I hadn't anticipated things spiraling so fast, nor had I thought about how quickly everything could fall apart. But now it was too late, and there was no turning back. I spent a full day in jail, 24 hours of silence, confusion, and disbelief. I had no idea how she managed it, but Betty convinced everyone, police, friends, even my family, that I had assaulted her. I was in shock and felt deeply betrayed. My mind replayed the events that led to my arrest, the way she accused me of something I didn't do, something I couldn't have possibly done. The footage was my saving grace. But the emotional impact of everything was hard to shake. It showed that I had entered the apartment, but I hadn't stayed long. In fact, I left within minutes. I spent the next few weeks staying with my parents, away from the public eye. I couldn't show myself in town. Too many people believed her version of the story. I ignored Betty's calls, texts, and any attempts to reach out. The damage was done, and I couldn't go back to that life. So I flew to Jeddah and got back to work. Then, after 4 months of silence, I started getting calls from unknown numbers. The desperation in her voice when I answered was unmistakable. Betty was asking for forgiveness, trying to explain herself. I decided to confront her in person. It had to be face to face. She needed to face the consequences of what she'd done to me. I arranged to meet her at a local cafe, a place where she felt comfortable. She had no idea what was coming. When I saw her, I could tell she was trying to appear calm, but I knew her too well. She avoided my gaze, looking guilty. I didn't waste time. Betty, I said, leaning forward. Let's cut to the chase. You made up a story. You accused me of something I didn't do. And you ruined my life. Her eyes widened, and she shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I didn't think you'd react like this, she stammered. I thought I could fix things. I was just so hurt. I thought that if I made it seem like you attacked me, maybe you'd finally care again. I couldn't help but scoff. Care? You think making up a story like that would make me care? Betty's face twisted in guilt and frustration. I didn't mean for it to get so out of control, she whispered. I wanted you to notice me. I was lonely when you were gone. I stopped her. You don't get to do this. You don't get to hurt me like that and act like it's nothing. You made a choice. You chose to lie. You chose to destroy everything we had. I didn't mean it like that, she said, her voice shaking. I didn't know what else to do. You didn't know what else to do? I repeated in disbelief. You could have told me you were struggling. You could have talked to me. But instead, you chose to destroy me. Do you even realize what you've done? She fell silent, her head drooping in shame. But I wasn't done. You're not getting away with this, I continued, pulling out my phone. I've recorded this conversation. I want everyone to hear the truth. Your lies are over. Her face lost all color as she realized what was happening. What? No, Mitch, please. I want everyone to know exactly what you did, I said. I want them to hear you admit that you manipulated me, that you lied, and that you tried to ruin my life. Betty opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She looked around, trying to gather herself, but the words she needed to say didn't come. She couldn't talk her way out of this anymore. For a brief moment, I thought maybe I was about to get another chance. Maybe Mitch would forgive me, and we could go back to how things were. I told myself it was a second chance, a do-over. I felt a weight lift off me, as if the world was giving me a free pass. But I was wrong. I finally admitted everything. I confessed even the things I didn't want to face. I told him about the affair, how I wanted him out of my life without causing too much damage. I wanted him gone, and I thought I could do it without ruining my reputation. I said things I didn't even mean, but they just came out. I told him about the boyfriend, how he was supposed to replace Mitch. I admitted it all, like some confession booth where I just spilled everything. I even mentioned the boyfriend's infidelity, hoping it would make me seem more like a victim, though I knew it wasn't true. The guy had left me when things got tough. I was alone, lost in the mess I had created. Now here I was, trying to clean it all up, but it was already too late. I thought maybe, just maybe, he would forgive me, but then it all came crashing down. The next morning, it hit me. Mitch wasn't here to fix things. He wasn't willing to just sweep it under the rug. I found out the hard way. Mitch had already exposed everything. The things I said, the things I did. It was all out in the open. Friends and family started calling, but they weren't calling to comfort me. They were asking how I could do this to someone who loved me so much. I started receiving messages, the kind you don't want to see, the kind that make your stomach turn. They came from people I thought would stand by me, my friends, the ones who always said they'd have my back. But now they were distancing themselves. Some were outright angry. I couldn't make sense of it. It felt like I had been kicked to the curb. But I couldn't deny that I deserved it. The truth was out, and there was no escaping it. Then came the bombshell. Mitch hadn't just sat back and accepted this. No, he had been planning. While I thought I was out of his life, he had been recording everything. The confession, the lies, the manipulations. He had it all documented. He even recorded me admitting to things I never thought he would find out about. His voice came through the phone. When he played the recording, a cold reminder of how badly I had messed up. But the worst part wasn't just the emotional toll, it was the legal consequences too. The police showed up at my door one day. I couldn't breathe when I saw them. They had questions, and they had proof that I had filed false reports. They said I made accusations against Mitch that weren't true, and now they had to investigate. I tried to act like everything was fine, but the truth was staring me in the face. They told me there were criminal charges in the works. For lying, for twisting the facts, for everything I had done. I hadn't seen this coming. I should have known, but I didn't. Now I was facing possible jail time. All the things I had worked so hard for, the lifestyle, the comfort, the security, was slipping away in the blink of an eye. Everything was gone. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I could manipulate my way out of anything. But I was wrong. What hurt the most wasn't just losing Mitch. It was losing my place in the world. I had everything I wanted, and I threw it all away. The people who once respected me had turned their backs. I couldn't even go to my parents. I had lost that connection too. The days started to blur together. Now I'm sitting in a room with a lawyer, listening to him explain my situation. The charges against me are real, and it's hard to ignore the weight of them. I'll likely face some form of punishment, whether it's jail time or community service. But the hardest part to accept is that I ruined my relationship with Mitch. He was my future.